Can you even hold the coffee, old man? The waitress sneered, eyeing his trembling hands. He lowered his gaze, steadying himself, but the humiliation burned deep. Suddenly, the restaurant door swung open. A tall Navy Admiral stepped inside, scanning the room with sharp eyes. "Welcome to XQ Incredible Stories. Let's uncover what really happened." He pushed open the weathered door of the small-town diner, the familiar jingle of the bell announcing his arrival. The scent of fresh coffee and frying bacon filled the air, mingling with the low hum of quiet conversations and the clatter of dishes. Walter, an elderly man with silver hair thinning at the temples, shuffled to an empty booth near the window. His hands trembled slightly, betraying the strength he no longer felt. The waitress glanced over with a thin smile, but Walter noticed the flicker of impatience in her eyes. He cleared his throat and softly called, "Coffee, please." "Black." His voice was steady but low, weighed down by years of unspoken burdens. As she walked away, he caught whispers from a nearby table. Some eyes lingered on him, others quickly looked away. Walter's mind drifted back to his Navy days. Crisp uniforms, the steady rhythm of the ship beneath his feet, the camaraderie forged in the sea's endless expanse. Back then, his hands had been steady and sure, capable of feats that saved lives and secured freedom. But now, here he was, a far cry from those proud days, his hands shaking as if carrying invisible scars. The waitress returned, sliding the steaming mug in front of him. Her gaze hardened as she noticed his unsteady grip. "You sure you can hold that?" she said with a mocking tone loud enough for the surrounding tables to hear. A few diners glanced at the scene, some with sympathy, others awkwardly silent. Walter's face flushed with embarrassment, but he didn't respond. Instead, he steadied his hands and took a careful sip, refusing to let the humiliation win. The door swung open again, and the low murmur paused. A tall man in a Navy Admiral's uniform entered, his sharp eyes scanning the room. Recognition flickered in his gaze as he spotted Walter. The atmosphere shifted, tension building like a storm about to break. "Welcome to XQ Incredible Stories. Let's uncover what really happened." Here is Chapter 2, continuing from the outline and maintaining the tone and word count between 350 and 380 words. Walter's hands trembled as he raised the coffee cup to his lips. The mug wobbled slightly, and for a moment, he feared it might slip and spill. Years ago, steady hands had been a necessity to operate machinery, to write precise reports, to aid wounded comrades on the battlefield. Now, they betrayed him with every small motion. The tremors were relentless, an unwelcome reminder of the invisible toll his service had taken. The waitress watched him from the counter, arms crossed and lips pursed. "You sure you want to keep holding that?" she said with a sneer, loud enough for others nearby to hear. "Looks like you might drop at any second." Walter lowered the cup, setting it firmly on the table. His jaw tightened. He wasn't just an old man struggling with a cup of coffee. He was a Navy veteran, a man who had served with honor, though the years and memories had left their mark. Yet here, in this quiet diner, none of that seemed to matter. The customers around the room shifted uncomfortably. Some looked away, unwilling to intervene. Others exchanged glances but stayed silent. The air was thick with unspoken tension. Walter felt the weight of their eyes, but refused to let them see the sting behind his composed exterior. Memories flashed unbidden. Nights on a ship rocking under stormy skies, the roar of jets overhead, the chaos of combat zones far from this small town. The hands that trembled now had once steadied rifles and carried wounded men to safety. Those hands had signed letters home, clutched medals, and saluted the flag with pride. But PTSD and years of hardship had left a different legacy. The tremors weren't just physical. They were echoes of trauma, reminders of battles that never truly ended. Walter knew most wouldn't understand, and few would care. Just as he prepared to take another sip, the diner's door swung open once more. Heads turned toward the entrance, where a tall figure in a pristine Navy Admiral's uniform stepped inside. The chatter hushed instantly. The Admiral's gaze locked onto Walter, recognition sparking in his eyes. The room held its breath. Welcome to XQ Incredible Stories. Let's uncover what really happened. She leaned over the counter, her voice dripping with sarcasm as she called out to Walter. Old-timer, maybe you should let someone else handle that cup before you break something. The other patrons in the diner glanced up, some trying to mask their amusement, others clearly uncomfortable with the rude display. Walter's fingers tightened around the mug, knuckles pale, but he remained silent. His shaking hands had become a daily struggle, a constant reminder of battles fought long ago. The nerve damage from an IED explosion overseas had left him with tremors that no medication could fully ease. What the waitress saw as weakness was a lifetime of sacrifice etched into every unsteady movement. Walter glanced around, hoping for a friendly face, but the room seemed divided. Some stared coldly, others avoided his gaze. His heart ached, not from the physical pain, but from the invisible wounds he carried. Years ago, he had been a sailor, a protector of his country, but here, in this small diner, he felt like nothing more than a spectacle. Before he could say anything, the diner's bell rang sharply. Heads turned as a man in a sharp Navy Admiral's uniform entered, his presence commanding immediate respect. His eyes scanned the room and landed on Walter. Recognition flashed across his face, a moment of understanding passing silently between two men shaped by war. The waitress stiffened, her smirk fading as the Admiral approached the counter. The atmosphere shifted palpably, the casual mockery replaced by a heavy weight of respect and authority. Walter's breath hitched slightly, unsure of what was coming next. The Admiral's voice broke the silence, calm but firm. "Is this the man you've been mocking?" The waitress faltered, caught off guard, while the diners watched intently. Walter, despite his embarrassment, held his head high. He might be forgotten by many, but not by this man. Welcome to XQ Incredible Stories. Let's uncover what really happened. Walter met the Admiral's steady gaze, feeling a flicker of something he hadn't felt in years: respect. The room, once buzzing with whispers and sneers, fell into a tense silence. The waitress's face paled as she realized the weight of the man she had mocked. The Admiral's voice cut through the quiet, commanding but measured. "Sir," he addressed Walter, "I recognize you. Your service did not go unnoticed." Walter blinked, memories flooding back. The countless deployments, the nights spent far from home, the sacrifices made in silence. He had never sought praise or recognition, just the quiet dignity of a job done. The waitress shifted uncomfortably, her earlier mockery replaced by uncertainty. The Admiral continued. This man's hands carried more than coffee. They carried the weight of a nation's safety. What you see as weakness is strength few understand. Other diners began to murmur in agreement, the atmosphere shifting from judgment to respect. Some stood, clapping softly, their eyes no longer filled with amusement but gratitude. Walter's throat tightened, emotions rising as he looked around the room that had so quickly turned from a place of shame to one of honor. The Admiral placed a firm hand on Walter's shoulder. "It's time we remember what service truly means." The waitress swallowed hard, stepping forward. I'm sorry," she stammered, genuine remorse in her eyes. Walter nodded, accepting the apology with quiet grace. The room's energy lifted, transforming from tension to healing. That moment marked more than just a confrontation. It was a turning point, a reminder that behind every trembling hand lies a story of courage and sacrifice, deserving of respect. Welcome to XQ Incredible Stories. Let's uncover what really happened. The diner's door swung open with a soft chime, and all eyes instinctively turned. Standing there was a tall man clad in a crisp Navy Admiral's uniform, his polished insignia gleaming under the fluorescent lights. His posture was straight, bearing the unmistakable aura of authority and experience. He scanned the room with keen, observant eyes, until they settled on Walter, sitting quietly in the corner booth. Recognition flickered immediately across the Admiral's face, a mix of surprise and something deeper, like a long-buried memory stirring to life. The low murmur of conversations died down as the weight of his presence filled the small space. This wasn't just any customer. This was someone who carried the stories of decades at sea and battles fought in faraway lands. The waitress, previously emboldened by her taunts, now looked down nervously, realizing the gravity of the moment. The regular customers shifted in their seats, many now clearly curious and expectant. Walter felt a sudden sense of calm wash over him as the Admiral slowly approached his table, his footsteps measured and purposeful. The two men locked eyes, decades of shared experiences and silent understanding passing between them. The tremor in Walter's hand remained, but something steadier ignited within him. The Admiral's presence alone seemed to grant him a dignity he had long been denied. Behind the Admiral's stern exterior lay a story waiting to be told, a connection that would soon unravel the layers of misunderstanding, shame, and honor bound tightly to Walter's quiet existence. The room held its breath as history quietly began to rewrite itself in that modest diner booth. Welcome to XQ Incredible Stories. Let's uncover what really happened. The Admiral's gaze never wavered as he drew closer to Walter's booth. Recognition had settled deep in his eyes, a flicker of respect and something unspoken, the kind of bond that only shared trials could forge. Slowly, he pulled out the chair opposite Walter and sat down with measured calm. Around them, the diner's atmosphere shifted palpably. Conversations hushed, the usual clatter of plates and cups fading into the background. Diners turned to watch, sensing that something extraordinary was unfolding in their everyday space. Walter looked up, his tired eyes meeting the Admiral's steady stare. For a moment, neither spoke. The years of separation between their lives collapsed in that instant. Two men linked by the harsh realities of service, sacrifice, and memory. Walter, the Admiral began, his voice low but firm, "I never thought I'd see you here." His tone held a mix of surprise and solemn gratitude. "You saved my life overseas. I owe you more than words can say." Walter's hands trembled, but not from a usual cause. A sudden surge of emotion tightened his chest. The Admiral's words echoed through years of silence and struggle. The waitress, standing uncertainly nearby, watched as the weight of this recognition settled on Walter. The room seemed to hold its breath, the story beginning to unfold beyond the surface. No longer just a man with shaky hands, Walter was a hero, one whose quiet dignity had gone unseen for far too long. The Admiral's presence was a beacon, shining light on a past filled with courage and sacrifice, demanding the respect Walter had long been denied. Around them, the diner's patrons shifted in their seats, eyes wide with new understanding. This was more than a chance encounter. It was the start of a reckoning. Welcome to XQ Incredible Stories. Let's uncover what really happened. The Admiral stood slowly, his presence commanding the attention of everyone in the diner. His eyes locked onto the waitress, who now looked small and uncertain under his steady gaze. The mocking smile she had worn moments before was gone, replaced by a nervous, apologetic expression. "Ma'am," the Admiral said, his voice calm but resolute, "this gentleman has served our country with honor. What you saw as weakness is a visible sign of sacrifice many don't understand." The room fell into a heavy silence, all eyes fixed on the confrontation unfolding before them. The waitress swallowed hard, her earlier bravado replaced by an uncomfortable humility. Walter remained seated, his posture steady despite the tremors in his hands. The Admiral's words had lifted a weight from him, giving voice to years of unspoken pain. Some of the diners began to murmur softly, nodding in agreement, while others exchanged glances filled with newfound respect. The Admiral continued, "Mocking someone who carries the scars of service is not just disrespectful. It's a failure to honor those who protect our freedoms." The waitress glanced around, realizing the gravity of her actions. I'm sorry," she stammered, eyes downcast. The Admiral nodded. "Apology accepted. But let this be a lesson to us all." As the atmosphere shifted, the tension in the room began to ease. The community was witnessing a moment of reckoning, not just for the waitress, but for how society treats its veterans. Walter looked up, meeting the Admiral's eyes once more. There was gratitude there, quiet but deep. The door of the diner opened again, a breeze carrying the distant sounds of the outside world. But inside, a transformation had begun. Welcome to XQ Incredible Stories. Let's uncover what really happened. Walter sat quietly, absorbing the Admiral's words as a calm resolve settled within him. Despite the tremors in his hands, his gaze remained steady and unyielding. He had spent years carrying invisible wounds, battling the ghosts of war that lingered long after the battles had ended. Now, faced with this unexpected moment of recognition, he felt a quiet strength rekindled. Around the diner, the patrons shifted, their previous curiosity softening into respect. Some nodded subtly. Others whispered amongst themselves, beginning to grasp the depth of Walter's sacrifice. It was as if the Admiral's presence had pulled back a curtain, revealing a story many had overlooked. Walter's mind drifted to the past, to the Navy ship decks under endless stars, to the camaraderie forged in the crucible of combat, and to the nights spent haunted by memories he rarely shared. His hands, once steady and sure, bore the marks of that journey, nerve damage and trembling caused by wounds no one could see. He recalled the day an explosion tore through their convoy, the chaos, the smoke, and the desperate fight for survival. Amid it all, Walter had driven a burning vehicle away from his comrades, risking everything to protect them. Those memories were etched deeply into his soul, but rarely acknowledged outside of those who served beside him. Now, as the Admiral spoke quietly to a few nearby patrons, Walter felt something he hadn't in a long time: belonging. The respect in a room was more than just words. It was a balm for years of pain and isolation. He took a slow breath and steadied his trembling hands. This moment was not just about the past. It was about reclaiming dignity, about reminding everyone that behind every shaking hand was a story worth hearing. The Admiral's voice cut through the quiet again. We owe more to men like Walter than we often realize. Walter nodded softly, the weight of those words settling in his heart. Welcome to XQ Incredible Stories. Let's uncover what really happened. The Admiral's voice carried a quiet authority as he addressed the small crowd gathering near Walter's booth. This man, he began, has served his country with unwavering courage. What you see as frailty is the mark of sacrifice, physical and unseen. The waitress, standing off to the side, lowered her eyes in shame, her earlier mockery replaced by a growing sense of remorse. A few of the diners nodded thoughtfully, the tension in the room shifting from discomfort to admiration. Walter, though still battling the tremors in his hands, felt a new sense of pride stirring within him. For years, he had carried the invisible wounds of war: PTSD, nerve damage, and the weight of memories that refused to fade. Few had understood. Even fewer had acknowledged. The Admiral continued, his gaze never leaving Walter's face. His hands once steered ships through dangerous waters and helped save lives under fire. Today, they tremble not from weakness, but from the scars of service. A murmur of agreement swept through the diner. Some diners reached out with quiet words of thanks. Others simply nodded with respect. Walter caught the sincerity in their eyes, a reflection of the honor he had silently earned. The waitress approached hesitantly. "Sir," she said softly, "I was wrong. I'm sorry for how I treated you." Walter's eyes met hers, and he gave a small nod of acceptance. "Thank you," he replied gently. "Sometimes people don't see the full story." The Admiral smiled, placing a hand on Walter's shoulder. "And it's our duty to remind them." In that humble diner, amid the clatter of dishes and murmurs of conversation, a powerful lesson had been learned, a lesson about respect, sacrifice, and the importance of seeing beyond appearances. Walter took a deep breath, steadying his hands once more. For the first time in a long while, he felt truly seen. Welcome to XQ Incredible Stories. Let's uncover what really happened. As the din of the diner slowly returned, a quiet conversation began to ripple through the room. Whispers and murmurs that painted a fuller picture of Walter's life beyond his trembling hands. The Admiral took a seat beside Walter, his tone gentle yet firm as he began to recount stories of the veteran's past. He was a ship's chief during our deployments, the Admiral explained to the nearest patrons. When our convoy was ambushed in a hostile zone, Walter didn't hesitate. He drove a burning fuel truck away from the group, risking his life to save others. Eyes widened in disbelief, some nodding in awe. The waitress, now sitting at a nearby table, listened intently, her earlier judgment replaced by admiration. Walter, usually reserved, allowed a faint smile to touch his lips, a rare moment of recognition. The Admiral continued. Walter also carried a wounded medic 2 miles to safety, despite his own injuries. The scars you see aren't just physical. They tell a story of bravery few get to hear. The room's energy shifted from curiosity to reverence. Conversations turned from whispers to expressions of gratitude. Patrons who had once glanced skeptically now regarded Walter with newfound respect. Walter cleared his throat, voice steady despite his nerves. "Most people don't see what we go through," he said softly. "The battles don't end when you come home. The tremors, the memories, they're part of us." A young man near the counter spoke up. "Thank you for your service, sir. I never knew what veterans really endure." Walter nodded, humbled by the sincerity. The waitress approached, offering a small, sincere smile. "I'm sorry for being rude," she said quietly. "I didn't understand." Walter's eyes met hers. "It's okay. Sometimes people need to learn." The Admiral placed a hand on Walter's shoulder. "And today you've taught us all." The diner felt different now, warmed by respect, healing, and a deepened understanding of sacrifice. "Welcome to XQ Incredible Stories. Let's uncover what really happened." The waitress stood beside Walter's booth, her earlier embarrassment giving way to genuine remorse. "I never meant to hurt you," she said quietly, voice sincere. "I just didn't understand what you've been through." Walter looked up, the flicker of pain in his eyes softening. "Most don't," he replied gently. "People see the shaking hands and think weakness, but it's more than that." She nodded slowly. "It's easy to judge without knowing the story." Walter smiled faintly. "Sometimes the hardest battles are the ones nobody sees." The diner's patrons, once observers, now became participants in a moment of healing. Conversations about respect and sacrifice flowed more openly, weaving a newfound empathy through the room. The Admiral spoke again, his voice steady. "We owe more than gratitude. We owe understanding and support." Several customers approached Walter, shaking his hand, expressing thanks. The waitress joined them, her face reflecting humility and a desire to make amends. Later, she volunteered at a local veteran charity, seeking to learn more and give back. Walter, inspired by the kindness, began speaking at community events about the unseen struggles of veterans, the physical wounds, the mental scars, and the isolation that often follows. Together, their unlikely friendship became a symbol of redemption and education, reminding all that respect is earned not only through service but through compassion. The diner transformed, too, becoming a place where veterans felt welcomed, their stories honored, and their sacrifices remembered. Walter's journey from mock stranger to respected hero touched lives far beyond that small booth. In that moment, the community realized that behind every veteran's tremor lies a story of courage and resilience waiting to be heard. Welcome to XQ Incredible Stories. Let's uncover what really happened. In the days following the diner incident, word spread quickly through the town about the encounter between Walter and the Navy Admiral. The story touched many hearts, sparking conversations about how veterans were treated and the unseen burdens they carried. What had started as a quiet afternoon in a small diner became a catalyst for change. Local community centers began hosting gatherings to honor veterans, sharing their stories, and raising awareness about the challenges they faced. Walter, once invisible and overlooked, found himself invited to speak about his experiences. His voice, once silenced by years of hardship, now resonated with strength and hope. The Waitress, too, became an active participant in this newfound movement. She joined volunteer groups supporting veterans and took every opportunity to educate others about the sacrifices behind the tremors and scars she had once mocked. Her transformation from ignorance to advocacy inspired many in the town. At the diner, a new sign was hung near the entrance, declaring it a veteran-friendly establishment. The community embraced this change, welcoming veterans with open arms and open hearts. Patrons shared stories over meals, building bonds rooted in respect and understanding. Walter's presence in the town became a symbol of resilience and the power of compassion. Children listened attentively as he recounted tales of courage and perseverance, while adults reflected on the importance of recognizing the sacrifices made by those who served. The diner, once a place of discomfort and judgment, transformed into a gathering spot for healing and connection. The community had learned a vital lesson. Every veteran carries a story worth hearing, and every act of kindness has the power to change a life. Walter's shaky hands, once a source of ridicule, now held the strength of a man honored and remembered. Welcome to XQ Incredible Stories. Let's uncover what really happened. One afternoon, seated at his usual booth, Walter shared more of his story with a small group of attentive listeners who had gathered at the diner. His voice was steady, but carried the weight of years filled with both valor and pain. He spoke not just of battles fought abroad, but of the silent struggles that followed. PTSD, loneliness, and the physical toll of war. "My hands tremble because of nerve damage from an explosion," he explained. "But that's only part of it. The real battle is inside your mind, where memories don't fade and the silence can be deafening." He described the nights when sleep eluded him, haunted by echoes of gunfire and the faces of friends lost too soon. The isolation that comes with feeling invisible to the world, even after giving everything. The listeners, young and old alike, were moved by Walter's honesty. Many had never heard such a raw account of a veteran's experience. Questions were asked, stories were shared, and a deeper understanding took root. The Waitress, now a friend and advocate, sat quietly nearby, her respect for Walter evident in her attentive gaze. She had come to realize how little she had understood before and was determined to help change perceptions in the community. Walter's story became a beacon, shedding light on the unseen wounds many veterans carry. It was a reminder that service does not end when the uniform comes off. It lingers in every tremor, every memory, every quiet moment. The diner had become more than a place to eat. It was a sanctuary where stories of sacrifice were honored and healing could begin. Welcome to XQ Incredible Stories. Let's uncover what really happened. Walter's trembling hands weren't just a physical reminder of his service. They were echoes of battles fought long after the war ended. The invisible wounds of PTSD gnawed at him relentlessly, turning ordinary moments into challenges of endurance. It wasn't the kind of injury that earned medals or recognition, yet it shaped every aspect of his daily life. He shared with the community how the memories came unbidden: explosions, cries for help, and the haunting silence after the storm. Nights were often sleepless, filled with nightmares that left him gasping for breath. Days were shadowed by anxiety and the constant effort to appear normal in a world that didn't always understand. Walter explained how these struggles isolated him, even from family and friends. He described how many veterans suffer in silence, afraid to ask for help because of stigma or pride. The physical tremors were just one sign of the deeper battles waged within. His story resonated with many, especially younger veterans who saw their own experiences reflected in his words. Support groups formed, offering spaces where veterans could share openly and find solace. Walter became an advocate for mental health awareness, speaking passionately about the importance of compassion and support for those who serve. He emphasized that healing required more than medicine. It required community, understanding, and patience. The diner where his story began transformed into a hub for these conversations. Local leaders organized events to educate the public, and resources for veterans became more accessible. Walter's journey illuminated the harsh realities behind the uniform, the sacrifices unseen, the strength hidden beneath trembling hands. The community had begun to see the full picture, honoring not just the heroics, but the humanity of those who served. Welcome to XQ Incredible Stories. Let's uncover what really happened. The Admiral stepped up once again, his voice resonating with conviction as he addressed the growing crowd gathered around Walter. It is not just enough to recognize the sacrifices of our veterans. We must act to support them. His words echoed through the diner and beyond, igniting a call to action. He shared stories from his own experience leading missions and witnessing firsthand the toll war takes on those who serve. The challenges veterans face after returning home, bureaucratic hurdles, lack of mental health support, and social isolation, were often overlooked by the very society they protected. Walter nodded, grateful that someone of such stature was amplifying the message. Together, they urged the community to rally behind its veterans, to provide not just gratitude, but tangible resources and compassion. Local leaders responded swiftly. Veterans organizations saw an influx of support and volunteers, while policymakers began discussing reforms to improve benefits and care. The story of Walter and the Admiral became a powerful symbol of the need to bridge the gap between service and civilian life. The diner became a focal point for veteran advocacy. Meetings were held there, pamphlets distributed, and voices raised in unity. Walter, once a forgotten figure, now stood at the center of a movement. The Admiral's call reminded everyone that the fight doesn't end when soldiers return. It continues in the communities that must learn to understand, honor, and care for those who bear the invisible scars. Walter's shaky hands, once mocked, now represented resilience and the ongoing struggle for justice and dignity. Welcome to XQ Incredible Stories. Let's uncover what really happened. The news of the incident at the diner quickly spread beyond the small town, catching the attention of local media outlets. Reporters arrived eager to capture the story of Walter, the veteran with trembling hands, and the Navy Admiral who stood up for him. Their encounter became a symbol of respect and the urgent need to support those who had served. Interviews were conducted with Walter, the Admiral, and even the Waitress, who shared her journey from ignorance to advocacy. The community's response was overwhelmingly positive, inspiring others to reflect on how veterans were treated in their own neighborhoods. Veteran support groups saw an increase in membership and donations, fueled by renewed public interest. Fundraisers were organized to assist those struggling with physical and mental health challenges, and awareness campaigns highlighted the realities of PTSD and other service-related conditions. Walter himself became a reluctant spokesperson, sharing his story with honesty and humility. He spoke not just about his own struggles, but about the countless others who suffered in silence. His words resonated deeply, breaking down barriers and fostering empathy. The Admiral continued to use his influence to advocate for improved veteran services, pressing policymakers for change. Together, they worked to ensure that no veteran would be mocked or forgotten because of the wounds they carried. The diner, once a simple backdrop, had transformed into a beacon of hope and change. What began as a moment of ridicule had blossomed into a powerful movement honoring sacrifice and promoting healing. Walter's shaky hands were no longer a source of shame, but a testament to courage and resilience recognized by a grateful nation. Welcome to XQ Incredible Stories. Let's uncover what really happened. Walter's story reached beyond the diner, inspiring veteran support groups and community organizations to come together. At one such gathering, veterans shared their struggles and triumphs, finding comfort in the company of those who truly understood. Walter listened quietly, grateful to no longer feel alone. Volunteers coordinated outreach programs, offering counseling, job training, and housing assistance. The Waitress, now an active advocate, helped organize events and connected with veterans to learn more about their needs. Her transformation from skeptic to supporter became a powerful testament to growth and empathy. Local businesses joined the effort, offering discounts and creating veteran-friendly spaces. The diner, once the site of a painful encounter, was now a hub for fellowship and healing. Veterans gathered there regularly, sharing stories over meals and building bonds that transcended the past. Walter found renewed purpose, dedicating himself to mentoring younger veterans struggling to navigate civilian life. His experiences became a source of guidance and hope, proving that even the deepest wounds could lead to strength and resilience. The community's embrace extended beyond practical support. It was a collective acknowledgement of sacrifice and an unwavering commitment to honor those who served. Walter's shaky hands remained a symbol, not of weakness, but of enduring courage and the ongoing journey toward healing. Welcome to XQ Incredible Stories. Let's uncover what really happened. Not everyone welcomed the newfound attention on Walter and veterans' issues. At the county holding facility, Walter encountered hostility from a younger inmate who had overheard rumors about his military service. The young man, embittered by personal loss and skeptical of claims he deemed stolen valor, confronted Walter with harsh words. "Your brother died in Afghanistan? My brother died too. I don't buy the stories from guys like you," he spat, shoving Walter against a cold, gray wall. The accusation stung sharply, deeper than any physical blow. Walter didn't fight back. He understood the pain behind the anger, the grief that twisted hope into bitterness. Instead, he held on to the dignity earned through years of service and sacrifice. His trembling hands gripped his military dog tags tightly, the only physical connection to the life he once led. That night, Walter lay awake, the hostile encounter replaying in his mind. He thought of the Admiral's words, the community's support, and the long journey still ahead. Healing was not just about being seen, but also about confronting doubt and mistrust, even from those who should understand. The incident underscored the challenges veterans face beyond public recognition, the internal and external battles that persist in shadows. Walter resolved to keep sharing his story, hoping to bridge divides and foster understanding among all who had served and those who sought to comprehend. His shaky hands might tremble, but his spirit remained unbroken. Welcome to XQ Incredible Stories. Let's uncover what really happened. Walter's journey took an unexpected turn when, during a community event, he found himself surrounded by people who truly cared. The stories he shared about his military service and the struggles that followed resonated deeply. His openness inspired others to confront their own pain and begin the healing process. One afternoon, as he spoke at a local veteran support group, a young woman approached him afterward. Her eyes reflected a mixture of gratitude and sorrow. She had lost her brother in Afghanistan and struggled with her grief. Walter listened patiently, offering words of comfort and encouragement. "It's not easy," he said softly, "but we don't have to face it alone. Sharing our stories makes us stronger." The event marked a turning point not just for Walter, but for many who attended. The community grew closer, bonded by shared experiences and the desire to support one another. Walter's advocacy extended beyond speeches. He helped organize workshops on coping strategies, mental health resources, and navigating the VA system. His efforts brought tangible change to the lives of veterans and their families. Despite the challenges, Walter found renewed purpose. The respect once denied him now fueled a commitment to ensure no veteran felt invisible or forgotten again. The Admiral remained a steadfast ally, working alongside Walter to promote awareness and reform. Together, they symbolized resilience, hope, and the power of compassion. In the face of hardship, Walter's story was a beacon, reminding all that healing is possible, even after the darkest battles. Welcome to XQ Incredible Stories. Let's uncover what really happened. The pieces of Walter's life, once fragmented by pain and silence, began to come together in a way he had never imagined. As the community rallied around him, the story of his courage and perseverance reached a crescendo during a public hearing held at the town hall. The room was packed. Veterans, family members, local officials, and concerned citizens filled every seat, eager to witness justice and recognition unfold. Walter sat quietly in the front row, his hands still trembling, but his spirit steady. The hearing was unlike any he had ever experienced. Testimonies were given not just about his heroism and service, but about the systemic failures that allowed him to fall through the cracks. The administrative error that terminated his benefits without notice was exposed, and calls for reforms echoed throughout the chamber. Colonel Mason, the Admiral's longtime comrade, spoke passionately on Walter's behalf. This man saved lives in the most dangerous of circumstances. To see him struggling for basic dignity is a stain on our nation's promise to its veterans. The judge, now a private citizen and Walter's friend, addressed the audience. Justice delayed is still justice, but it must never be denied. Walter's story is a call to action, a reminder that we must do better. Emotions ran high as Walter listened to the support surrounding him. Tears welled in his eyes, not from sorrow, but from the overwhelming affirmation of his worth. The hearing concluded with unanimous agreement to overhaul the benefits system and expand support for homeless veterans. Walter's struggle had become a catalyst for meaningful change. Outside the hall, supporters cheered and embraced. Walter felt the weight of isolation lift, replaced by a profound sense of belonging. His journey, from mocked old veteran to honored hero, was a testament to the power of truth and perseverance. Welcome to XQ Incredible Stories. Let's uncover what really happened. The days following the hearing were filled with hope and healing. Walter returned to the diner, greeted warmly by familiar faces and new friends alike. The community's support was tangible, a balm for years of neglect and pain. But the story did not end with policy changes alone. A German shepherd named Riley, trained as a service dog for veterans with PTSD, became a new companion for Walter. Riley sensed Walter's anxiety and tremors, offering comfort with gentle nudges and unwavering loyalty. Together, they navigated the challenges of daily life, Riley's presence easing the burdens Walter carried. The dog's calming influence helped Walter sleep better and face the outside world with renewed confidence. The diner, now adorned with pictures of Walter and Riley, became a symbol of resilience and hope. Patrons often stopped to pet the gentle dog and share stories, creating a warm atmosphere of camaraderie. Local schools invited Walter and Riley to speak about service, sacrifice, and healing. Children listened wide-eyed as Walter recounted tales of courage, while Riley patiently sat by his side. The bond between man and dog illustrated a new chapter in Walter's life, one marked by companionship and renewed purpose. The invisible wounds remained, but with Riley's help and the community's support, Walter was no longer fighting alone. His shaky hands might tremble, but his heart was steady. Welcome to XQ Incredible Stories. Let's uncover what really happened. With Riley faithfully by his side, Walter began to rebuild not only his life, but also the community around him. Together, they spearheaded efforts to restore and improve the diner that had become a beacon for veterans and locals alike. The once quiet eatery now thrummed with purpose, hosting fundraisers, support meetings, and celebrations of service. Walter worked alongside fellow veterans, advocating for housing, mental health resources, and employment opportunities. His story had ignited a flame, encouraging others to share their struggles and triumphs. The diner's walls, once witnesses to mockery and silence, now echoed with laughter, hope, and solidarity. The community's transformation was visible in everyday acts. Neighbors checking in on veterans, children learning about service and sacrifice, and businesses embracing veteran-friendly policies. Walter's journey had bridged divides, reminding everyone of the humanity behind every uniform. The bond between Walter and Riley inspired many. Their partnership demonstrated the healing power of compassion and the importance of support systems for those battling invisible wounds. Walter's shaky hands, once a symbol of hardship, now represented resilience and renewal. As the diner flourished, so did Walter's spirit. He found purpose and service beyond the battlefield, in mentorship, advocacy, and friendship. His story, once marked by hardship, had become a legacy of courage and community. Welcome to XQ Incredible Stories. Let's uncover what really happened. The years that followed marked a new era for Walter and the community that had embraced him. The diner, once a place of ridicule, stood as a monument to respect and healing. A bronze plaque was unveiled outside the entrance, depicting Walter carrying a wounded comrade, symbolizing sacrifice and resilience. At the dedication ceremony, veterans, families, and town officials gathered to honor not just Walter, but all who had served and faced unseen battles. The mayor announced the creation of the Grady Initiative, a fund dedicated to providing legal assistance and support for homeless veterans. Walter, dressed in his military uniform adorned with medals long overdue, spoke briefly but powerfully. "I once protected this country. Now, this country protects me back." His voice, steady and clear, carried across the crowd, inspiring hope and gratitude. Children who had once only known Walter as the quiet man at the diner now saw him as a hero and mentor. His legacy extended beyond stories. It was a living testament to dignity, compassion, and justice. In quiet moments, Walter reflected on the journey from invisibility to recognition. The tremors in his hands remained, but so did the strength to face each day with courage and grace. His story reminded everyone that justice might be delayed, but it is never absent. It urged kindness, patience, and the unwavering belief that no one who serves should ever be forgotten. As the crowd applauded, Walter's eyes shone with quiet pride. A life once shadowed by struggle, now illuminated by honor. Welcome to XQ Incredible Stories. Thank you for uncovering what really happened.